As China's economic engine slows and Western nations increasingly view it as a rival instead of a partner, a new contender is emerging on its southwestern border, poised to become the world's next growth powerhouse. India has surpassed China as the world's most populous country, marking a significant demographic milestone with profound economic, social, and cultural implications. India's stock market is soaring, foreign investments are flooding in, and countries are eagerly negotiating trade deals with its vibrant market of 1.4 billion people. Leading companies like Boeing are securing record orders, Apple is ramping up iPhone production, and suppliers previously concentrated in southern China are making their way to India. Despite the excitement, India's $3.5 trillion economy is still a far cry from China's colossal $17.8 trillion. Experts predict it will take considerable time for India to catch up. Challenges like inadequate infrastructure, inconsistent education, bureaucratic hurdles, and a shortage of skilled workers present significant obstacles for Western companies setting up shop. India could surpass China much sooner in one crucial aspect, becoming the global engine of economic growth. Investment banks like Barclays are bullish, suggesting that India could become the world's largest growth contributor within Prime Minister Narendra Modi's next term. Bloomberg Economics offers an even rosier outlook, projecting India to achieve this milestone by 2028 on a purchasing power parity basis. To reach this goal, Modi must accomplish ambitious targets in 4 key areas: building better infrastructure, enhancing workforce skills and participation, developing more efficient cities, and attracting more manufacturing jobs. There's a blueprint for success. China's economic reforms in the late 1970s, which opened its economy to the world, led to an average growth rate of 10% per year for 3 decades, attracting foreign capital and increasing its global influence. Every major global company had to develop a China strategy. However, China's miracle growth phase has ended, overshadowed by a property crisis and growing Western concerns about its dominance in supply chains and technological advancements. This is where India steps in. Modi's government aims to make India's economy more competitive, appealing to Western businesses seeking alternatives to China with its vast pool of affordable labor. Modi has made India's economic acceleration a key part of his election campaign, promising to elevate the country's economy to the top position in the world if he wins a 3rd term. The government's infrastructure budget has more than tripled from 5 years ago to over 11 trillion rupees, 132 billion for the 2025 fiscal year. Including state spending, this figure could exceed 20 trillion rupees. Modi plans to invest 143 trillion rupees to improve railways, roads, ports, waterways, and other critical infrastructure by 2030. Simultaneously, the government is battling inflation by banning wheat and rice exports. Incentive programs worth 2.7 trillion rupees have been introduced to boost domestic manufacturing, offering companies tax breaks, lower land rates, and capital support to establish factories. In Bloomberg Economics' base case scenario, India's economy could accelerate to 9% by the end of the decade, while China slows to 3.5%. This trajectory places India on course to become the world's biggest growth driver by 2028. Even in the most pessimistic scenario, aligning with IMF projections where growth remains below 6.5%, India would still surpass China's contribution by 2037. Forecasts are inherently uncertain, and unexpected events can disrupt projections. India's chief economic advisor, V. Anantha Nageswaran, cautions against direct comparisons with China due to its significantly larger economy. However, he emphasizes India's growth potential, its youthful population, infrastructure development, and the potential to expand its middle class to 800 million people as compelling attractions for foreign investors. The biggest draw, he says, is not just cost competitiveness, but also the marketplace, the ability to generate economic returns, the rule of law, and policy stability, ensuring international investors can repatriate money relatively easily. In sectors like aviation, India's growth prospects are becoming tangible. Last year, Indigo, the country's largest airline, and Air India placed record orders for 970 aircraft with Airbus and Boeing. Akasa, India's newest airline, also ordered 150 jets from Boeing. Salil Gupta, president of Boeing India, highlights that new airports, a surge in aviation startups, and growing domestic travel demand from a rising middle class are driving significant opportunities in the civil aviation market. In January, Boeing inaugurated a new engineering center in Bengaluru, costing $200 million, making it the company's largest investment outside the U.S. Additionally, Boeing committed $100 million over the next 2 decades for infrastructure and pilot training to meet the growing demand for pilots. Economists stress that new infrastructure is crucial for faster development. For example, India, with about 148 airports last year, aims to increase this number to 220 by next year, still lagging behind China by over 100 airports. Infrastructure spending is vital for rapid development as it creates jobs, reduces logistics costs, facilitates trade, and encourages businesses to establish operations. This trend is evident in Noida, southeast of New Delhi, where new electronics factories are rapidly emerging, reminiscent of the manufacturing boom in Shenzhen, China decades ago. Dixon Technologies Letnad, an Indian contract manufacturer, has started building a 1 million square foot mobile phone assembly plant in Noida. The company's workforce has grown from around 9,000 before the pandemic to about 26,000 today. Dixon is benefiting from new business from clients like Xiaomi and Samsung, eager to manufacture goods for India's expanding middle class. What we see in China are large mega factories with thousands of people working and living on one campus, says Sunil Vachani, chairman and co-founder of Dixon. We aim to replicate that model in India. Expanding manufacturing capacity is vital for growth, as the service sector alone cannot create enough jobs. The manufacturing sector employs more unskilled workers, a crucial factor in China's economic success. Sabyasachi Kar, a professor at the Institute of Economic Growth, emphasizes the need to transition surplus labor from agriculture to manufacturing for employment. Dixon's Vachani mentions that recruiting workers from nearby Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, is not an issue. With around 200 million people, the state is known for its agricultural economy and high unemployment rate. If you want to set up a factory employing 50,000 people, you can do that today, he says. You can get that manpower within a month. India stands out as the only country with a large enough population to offset retiring factory workers in advanced economies in China. Bloomberg Economics estimates that from 2020 to 2040, about 48.6 million medium-skilled workers will retire from China and advanced economies, while India will add 38.7 million such workers. Modi has enticed manufacturers with substantial incentives, including tax cuts, rebates, and capital support. This strategy has seen early success with companies like Apple and Samsung ramping up production. However, they often assemble phones from parts made in China rather than from scratch. Earlier this year, India reduced tariffs on several mobile device components to boost production and make exports competitive. Industries like textiles, leather, and engineering goods have also advocated for lower import duties. There's no doubt we are still dependent on China, says Vachani. It's moving in the right direction, but it's still there. Despite years of efforts to boost manufacturing, it accounted for only about 15.8% of India's GDP in 2023, compared to 26.4% in China. Even if India's manufacturing sector consistently grows by 3 percentage points more than the headline growth, the country won't achieve Modi's goal of a 25% share in manufacturing until 2040, according to Bloomberg Economics. One significant hurdle is labor force participation, with only 55.4% of the working-age population engaged in employment or job seeking in 2022, compared to 76% in China. For women, the figure is even lower. Less than a third of working-age Indian women participate in the workforce. We need all the jobs we can get, says Raghuram Rajan, former governor of India's central bank and now a professor at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. I would make India an inviting place for domestic and foreign manufacturers to set up if they can. But first, India needs to make its workforce more employable. India has a lot of extremes, says Alexandra Herman, lead economist for Asia Macro at Oxford Economics. It has some of the brightest minds and top institutes competing with Ivy League universities, but average human capital levels are not comparable to most countries in the region, let alone higher developed countries. Additionally, housing the workforce transitioning from rural to urban areas is a challenge. Only 36% of India's population lives in cities, compared to 64% in China, requiring decades of urbanization to close the gap. India needs many more cities, says Santanu Sengupta, India economist at Goldman Sachs. Progress is being made in intercity connectivity, railway networks, and airport infrastructure. But critical issues like water, traffic, and housing need resolution. If Indian policymakers can build more homes in functional cities and train people for the manufacturing sector, the country is well positioned to capitalize on the global search for the next China. However, it must contend with an existing massive rival dominating global supply chains. Ashok Gupta, chairman of Optimus Infracom Ltd, an electronics manufacturer in Noida, notes that the geopolitical situation provides opportunities for India as foreign firms diversify their supply chains. The company recently announced a joint venture with Corning Inc. to open a factory in southern India next year. The geopolitical situation is an opportunity for us, says Gupta. However, he acknowledges that Indian manufacturers have a long way to go to compete with Chinese rivals. The factory with Corning will not manufacture smartphone glass, but will import sheets to finish and fashion into the final product. In this industry, China is 20 years ahead, Gupta admits. We are only starting. The road ahead is challenging, but India has several factors working in its favor. Its vast and youthful population, ongoing infrastructure investments, and proactive government policies aimed at boosting manufacturing all create a fertile ground for rapid growth. However, significant hurdles remain, including improving education and workforce skills, increasing labor force participation, especially among women, and developing adequate urban housing and infrastructure. If India can overcome these challenges, it stands to become a major player in the global economy. The shift away from China offers a unique opportunity for India to position itself as an attractive destination for international businesses seeking to diversify their supply chains and capitalize on a large emerging market. India's journey towards becoming the world's next economic powerhouse is a story of immense potential and strategic transformation. With the right policies and sustained effort, the dream of overtaking China as the world's largest contributor to economic growth by 2028 could become a reality. Stay tuned as we continue to track India's progress and the global economic shifts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful updates on the world's most dynamic economies. You can also support Economic Insights on Patreon. The link is down below. See you in the next video.